Exclusive contract novel of Feilu Fiction Network. Swordsman. Start to understand the Nine Yin Manual, Fang Qin has traveled through. The kind with a system. Coincidentally, the holographic virtual reality game Second World. Martial arts has opened. Just as he vaguely felt that the game was not simple, ding, collect world coordinates. What? The Nine Yin Manual, plus, Nine Yang Manual, equals. Dragon Elephant Prajnaparamita Skill+Iron Cloth Shirt+Golden Bell Mask+13 Taibao Horizontal Practice equals. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1, World 2. Martial Arts. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The morning sunshine shone into the room, slanting on the quilt. Fang Qin woke up and looked at everything in front of her with a somewhat confused expression. A simple bedroom seemed both unfamiliar and familiar. Sigh, I still haven't gone back. Why did I cross over for no reason? I haven't encountered any accidents or electric shocks. Fang Qin shook his head, and a hint of sadness flashed on his handsome face. 3 months had passed, but he still hadn't returned. Fang Qin is not from this world. He comes from a certain blue planet and inexplicably traveled to this seemingly ambiguous world 3 months ago. During these 3 months, he tried countless methods but was unable to return, so he could only slowly adapt to the life here. He was a direct traversal of the entire person, but strangely seized the power of the owner's existence in this place. The owner of this house, also known as Fang Qin, was taken away from his power of existence in some way after 3 consecutive days and nights of liver explosion and sudden death while playing games. So Fang Qin became the Fang Qin of this world and gained everything he had. However, Fang Qin in this world has little interpersonal interaction and has always been alone, which saves a lot of trouble and leaves behind a 1-bedroom, 1-living-room house. After a little adaptation, Fang Qin first checked the history of the world and found that history had completely changed. All of them were disrupted. Upon learning of this situation, Fang Qin originally wanted to examine non-existent classics and become a copyist, but was temporarily dispelled by overwhelming news on one side. The news of the upcoming release of a game called Second World. Martial arts, which claims to be 100% virtual reality, has attracted attention from the whole internet or the world. Although the history of this world is completely unrecognizable, the progress of technology is not much different from the past. Although there have been similar virtual games in the past, they are only small attempts at new technologies, let alone 100% virtual reality. A groundbreaking game to experience a second life in the second world. Enter the real world of martial arts, where you can choose your martial arts power. 100% virtual reality, 100% freedom, you can experience it by purchasing a game warehouse or game helmet. The purchase method can be purchased at the city's Second World physical store or official website. The new virtual reality game, Second World. Martial arts, will officially start on May 20th, stay tuned. News of this kind has been circulating one after another, and it has not stopped for the past 6 months. Moreover, it has been repeatedly promoted and proven, and netizens have gradually shifted from initial doubts to expectations. The official website comments of Second World are even more popular, with a large number of netizens expressing their opinions here. I want to play, I want to play. The game compartment has been booked, please wait for the game to start. While the humble working boy envies online and can only buy a game helmet to have fun, come on. Everyone said that the gaming experience of the game helmet is the same as that of the game pod, it's just that the game pod is comfortable to lie down on. Cough, the price difference is quite far, but it doesn't matter to the wealthy. I think virtual reality is definitely 100% impossible, but with such strong promotion, it shouldn't be too bad. Looking forward to it. It's a bit eerie. Virtual games are not uncommon, but let's not talk about those before. Why did you suddenly create such an exaggerated game? There shouldn't be any problem, right? Strongly support, I think there's no problem. What type of world is the second world mainly? There is no news about this on the official website of the game. I searched online for the word martial arts, which is similar to 3 heroes and 5 righteousness. Heroes and heroes. Do you have any experts who understand to explain it? I guess so. I'm not quite sure. Why do you think so much? Just look forward to it and it's over. Seeing such comments, Fang Qin secretly roasted that a thought flashed in his mind. It's hard to see that there are no chivalrous novels in this world. Thinking of this, I searched online and found that Jin Yong did not have it, Gu Long did not have it, and Huang Yi did not. Yes, the world has changed, and it's normal not to have these. Although there are also martial arts novels, they tend to lean towards ancient martial arts novels like The 3 Heroes and 5 Righteousness, and new styles of martial arts have not emerged. A hint of clarity flashed on Fang Qin's face. Although he was unsure of the specific situation in the second world, according to the information already released on the official website, he was likely to know that it was a martial arts novel similar to his previous life, and the true situation needed to be explored. But this information alone is enough for him to get rid of most players, and system, bring up personal interface. Host. Fang Qin, Air Transport Point. 1000 Function. Inferenced space, poor and destitute panel, Psi, this dog system can only be used for space, nothing else. What's the use for you? Fang Qin sighed helplessly. Yes, he woke up to this system on the first day of crossing over, and at the beginning, he was very excited, feeling like he was going to be amazing. As a result, our own system is different from those seductive and cheap people outside. There is no lottery, no check.in, no one pays 999 yuan, only one attribute bar and 2 system functions. It is currently unknown how to obtain the necessary energy for the system function to be activated. As the name suggests, space refers to the space that can store things. Originally the size of 1 cubic meter, Fang Qin later invested 4,000 points to increase the gas transportation point to 5 cubic meters. Inference, this function is currently not available for use by Fang Qin. The system statement is that the martial arts column must be enabled to use it. I originally heard that there was an attribute in the martial arts column. Recently, he was eagerly looking for various martial arts schools to try out its effects, but it was useless. The system explained that non-mainstream skills cannot be entered. Although he could learn on his own, he couldn't use his golden finger, and learning these would require a lot of time, so he gave up this idea. At that time, the promotion of Second World was overwhelming, and he naturally had a strong interest in the virtual reality that only existed in novels and anime in his previous life. He followed the latest news every day. Others may only consider this to be a game, although it appears abrupt, they do not speculate too deeply. But who is Fang Qin, a great young man in the new era, who has read countless novels? In this world of opening, there must be problems with the games inside. Combined with the information on the internet, he has a dark speculation in his heart. This second world may be a real otherworld. Of course, this is only speculation and cannot be determined. I hope it's true, otherwise my golden finger can basically be invalidated, and I don't know if there are any martial arts that can be recorded in this world, Fang Qin sighed. After hastily having breakfast, just as I was about to turn on my computer to browse information about games, my phone received the message that the game compartment had been delivered and quickly pushed the door open. 2 staff members helped Fang Qin's room with the game compartment, and after a busy period of work, it was finally installed and connected. Mr. Fang, the game repository has been installed and connected. You can authenticate first, and then you can log in when the game server is opened. One of the staff members handed a few files to Fang Qin and said, "Just sign here, please." "Okay, thank you." Fang Qin took the document, signed it, and handed it back to him. After receiving the documents, the two staff members said goodbye. Fang Qin closed the door, returned to the bedroom, opened the game compartment, tidied up and slowly lay down, closing his eyes. Ding, confirming identity. Chapter 2 The Nine Yin Manual. Disabled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding, confirming identity. Ding, confirmation successful, entering identity. Ding, input successful, dear player, hello. This game will start on May 20th. Please log in at midnight on the 20th. In the darkness, a flash of information flashed before Fang Qin's eyes. After simply confirming his identity, he left only a reminder of the game start time, and nothing else. Fang Qin secretly complained about it. It's a bit strange not to give a single CG in the game. Just as Fang Qin was preparing to withdraw, he waited until a month later when the game officially started and then waited for recording. Ding, detected the world entrance. Are you sure the link has entered? Fang Qin's heart skipped a beat. His deduction system had been immersed for 3 months without any active prompts, but now it has reacted. It seems that it was right to book the game warehouse early. Hold back the excitement and let your mind wander. Confirm. Ding, confirm link integration, system confirmation is in progress. Ding, the world coordinates are used for positioning, and the function, world, has been successfully activated. Ding, the world coordinates are included in the world, with stable space and no need to consume energy points. The host can enter with this function. Fang Qin called out the original panel. Host. Fang Qin, air transport point. 1000 function. Inferenced space world. The entire property panel has not changed much, except for the addition of a world function on the top. Does this mean that in the future, I don't need to go through the official game repository to be able to enter at any time, and does this world feature indicate that it is a real world? Fang Qin was a bit excited and felt that his conjecture was very likely to be correct. So, take a look inside. With a thought, I clicked on World and the attribute bar transformed into a hazy landscape painting. Inside, there was a vague figure changing, with a heroic figure waving its hands. The golden dragon danced wildly, its fighting spirit soaring into the sky, and it fought alone against the other heroes in the sound of dragon chants. There is an ancient figure holding a broom and gently sweeping it, with a strong sense of zen amidst movement and stillness. There was a figure dressed in red, with a ghostly appearance to the extreme. Under the red robe, silver light flickered, and murderous intent spread everywhere. There is a figure in rough linen clothing, using a finger to represent a sword, with the intent of breaking through the world. Various figures were changing, and Fang Qin's heart was swaying with excitement. There was a faint contrast in his heart, and he had some clarity. Confirm login murmured silently from the bottom of my heart. The scene in front of me gradually dissipated, accompanied by a dizzy blur of light and shadow. The dizziness came and went quickly, and Fang Qin slowly opened his eyes and scanned back and forth. I saw a burst of darkness in front of me, and I moved my hands and feet slightly, no different from in the real world. Where is this black and dark place? Fang Qin felt a bit uneasy in his heart, unable to see clearly in the darkness around him and afraid to move around casually. Fortunately, when Fang Qin first opened the system, space, he was too excited and placed a lot of things in the space, with everything to eat and use. Take out a flashlight from the system, space, and secretly think to yourself that it is indeed a real world. Otherwise, how can real things be brought into the game? Then, without thinking, turn on the flashlight and shine in all directions. Upon closer inspection, this was a stone chamber with nothing around it. Following the light, there was no special purpose in exploring it, and looking up, I also explored it. However, seeing that the roof of the room is densely filled with written symbols, my heart leaps and gazes at it. On the right side, there are 4 words, the Nine Yin Manual. The Nine Yin Manual. Is there a relic of Chongyan? Fang Qin blurted out in surprise. So I guess this place is an ancient tomb. As soon as I arrived here, I came across such divine skill secrets. Fang Qin suppressed the surging emotions in his heart and then looked at the light word by word, feeling only profound and mysterious. Unfortunately, he had not learned martial arts and found it difficult to understand most of the descriptions. He quickly read the entire classic. Ding, I found the Nine Yin Manual. Can I enter it? As soon as I finished reading, I heard a system prompt sound in my ear. Can I trigger the system only after reading it myself? Confirm entry, Fang Qin thought. After reading the entire scripture, it was confusing and impossible, so he could only rely on the hope system. Ding, confirm to enter the Nine Yin Manual. Disabled. Ding, successfully entered the Nine Yin Manual. Disabled, and obtained 60,000 chi points. Ding, successfully entered martial arts, opened the host's martial arts column, and the function martial arts. Ding, the host can comprehend the entered martial arts in the system martial arts. A sound of a prompt came from his ear, and Fang Qin saw that the system panel had added another column of functions and attributes, as well as a surge in energy points. Host. Fang Qin, martial arts. None, air transport point. 61,000, function, inference world martial arts hiss, the chi points have increased a lot. How is this value calculated? The more advanced the martial arts, the more chi points will be obtained. There are other factors, and the information is too little to judge. Fang Qin speculated. Let me see if this can help me understand the Nine Yin Manual. Start the system function, martial arts, with one move in mind, and see that it has been included in the Nine Yin Manual. Martial arts. The Nine Yin Manual. Incomplete, gently move. Ding, whether to directly learn the Nine Yin Manual. Disabled requires 10,000 chi points. Do we need 10,000 points of air circulation? The system's consumption is determined based on what? Ding, according to the host's martial arts level and the profound level of martial arts that need to be learned. Fang Qin is somewhat aware that he has no foundation in martial arts and is completely unaware of the acupoints and tendons. In this situation, learning directly would require more energy points. Confirming learning, Fang Qin crossed his legs and confirmed in his heart. Bang, in my mind came waves of mysterious information, including the 12 meridians, 8 extraordinary meridians, and 2 Ren and Du meridians. Various martial arts knowledge gradually became clear to me. Next are the 9 Yin internal skills, the bone forging chapter of the Book of Changes, the healing chapter, and the acupoint pointing chapter. The martial arts in the 9 Yin Manual residue emerged in Fang Qin's heart. His body followed his will, and his thoughts rose. The internal qi was generated in his body, and he kept walking in his muscles. Fang Qin's mind has been immersed in martial arts. The internal qi in his body unconsciously wanders along the running route of the 9 Yin Manual internal skill muscles, and finally hits the elixir field like a river into the sea. Bang, an endless stream of internal energy flows into the dantian, gradually giving rise to a strand of 9 Yin internal energy. As soon as this strand of internal energy appears, the endless internal energy wraps around and is continuously absorbed and strengthened by it. For a long time, Fang Qin gradually withdrew from his enlightenment state, feeling that his whole body was filled with strength, and strands of internal energy swam through his body, feeling slightly cool and comfortable. Fang Qin stood up, stretched his body, and used his internal strength to strike forward from the air. His grin sounded as he swung his fist into the air. With so much strength, is this internal power? It's amazing. It's just a recent cultivation and the internal power is not strong. Fang Qin said with some amazement on his face that the second man was all in the ordinary real world. He had never seen the real extraordinary. Now he came to the world of martial arts, learned the top unique the 9 Yin Manual, and was naturally excited to be exposed to the mysterious internal power. Chapter 3. Internal Power Xiaocheng. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Host. Fang Qin, Martial Arts. The Nine Yin Manual. Residual Qi Yun Point. 51,000 Function. Inferenced Space, Martial Arts. Looking at the attribute panel, Fang Qin was a little happy that he was finally no longer a whiteboard, but he was also somewhat disappointed that the Nine Yin Manual in the Chongyang relics was incomplete. The Nine Yin Manual is divided into 2 volumes and a general outline. Now we only have the Fu Devil's Palm in the upper volume and the lower volume. It's a pity that the most important general outline and various exquisite martial arts in the lower volume are missing. This martial arts book was written by Huang Shang, who had read countless Taoist scriptures back then. Among the classics of the past, he understood the meaning of Taoism, and with one method, he mastered all kinds of methods, becoming an amazing martial arts skill. In his old age, he sighed that time was running out, so he wrote down 2 volumes of the Nine Yin Manual and a general outline for later generations. The first and second volumes record many highly advanced internal and external skills, lightness techniques, and various extraordinary techniques, which can be said to encompass everything. The general outline is the Master's Martial Arts Program, which is broad, and corrects the bias of the body of the Nine Yin Manual toward yin and softness, pointing directly to the way of mutual aid between yin and yang. Nowadays, Fang Qin lacks a general outline, so his internal skill attributes lean towards yin and softness. The reason why the internal forces of the body can feel a slight coolness during operation is this. Fang Qin now understands the wonderful use of the system. Any martial arts secrets he has read can be included in the system's martial arts, and then he can spend his energy points on enlightenment learning, which can be fully understood in no time. Of course, the exquisite internal skills are already clear to the mind, and there is no bottleneck, but it is still necessary to extract internal energy step by step to open up the meridians around the body in order to steadily improve. As for the most mysterious deduction function, the system also explains it, which is that after reaching the peak of martial arts, the deduction can be activated to continue the deduction of martial arts, or the deduction mode can be activated, and the host will enter the heavenly man enlightenment mode to understand martial arts. I sorted my thoughts and walked around the stone room with a flashlight. The top priority now is to get out of this place first. There are 2 paths in this stone chamber, one is to enter the ancient tomb through a secret passage, and the other is to sneak out underwater. However, his cultivation is still lacking, his internal strength is insufficient, and his ability to hold his breath will also be affected. Therefore, without considering it for now, it seems that entering the ancient tomb is not feasible. It is difficult for him to enter this secret room by opening the mechanism from inside the tomb. Unless he has deep internal strength and can directly push open the stone door on the hallway. But currently, it's also impossible. Now he can only withdraw first. After all, there is no light or shadow in this place, and Fang Qin's stay is also somewhat oppressive. System, select world, call out the system function world and select to exit. I saw that this painting was a high-rise building, a steel jungle, and I vaguely knew that these scenes portrayed the characteristics of this world. I chose to withdraw. There was another blur in front of me, and I randomly recovered. When I opened my eyes, I had already returned to the real world. He was stunned for a moment, then closed his glasses again and carefully understood. His internal strength surged and he felt a slight chill all over, feeling indescribable pleasure. Everything is true. Fang Qin murmured to himself. Opening the game compartment and walking out, I felt a bit sticky all over, with a faint odor coming from my body. It seems that he was too excited to feel so dirty before. Fang Qin was somewhat helpless. As a top unique skill, the Nine Yin Manual, practicing can greatly improve his physique, and he also believes that this change will be greater and greater. After looking at the dull and unresponsive game, Qin's mouth twitched. The game warehouse I bought at a high price is broken like this, my heart is stuffed. He said so, but deep down he didn't have any good regrets. He made a lot of money. Go into the bathroom, take off your clothes, and do a good wash before coming out. Open your phone to check the information, and there is still a very lively discussion online about Second World. I didn't expect it, I logged in early. I was cheating, Fang Qin chuckled inwardly. Then it came to my mind that in this real-world game, most players, except for those with exceptional talents, should find it quite difficult to learn martial arts. After all, not everyone has a direct system to learn enlightenment martial arts. All the intricacies can be instantly understood, as long as they gradually improve their internal strength and open up meridians. Players who want to learn martial arts must first learn the meridian and acupoint maps, and only with a basic understanding of martial arts can they start learning. Even if you have enough knowledge, you still need to be able to calm down and practice meditation, internal strength meditation, and martial arts. Only in this way can you gradually become familiar with and learn. In addition, various pollutants in the real world may cause the muscles to become more blocked, making it even more difficult to cultivate internal strength. I really feel a bit sorry for them when I think about it. However, even so, it is estimated that many people will continue to enter the game one after another. After all, just one internal power is enough to drive people crazy. Fang Qin packed up and went out to buy food at the supermarket. He bought enough food for a week and then returned home. After cooking, he continued to practice the Nine Yin Manual. The internal power was refined by following the movements of the tendons and meridians throughout the week, and the internal power continued to strengthen. Fang Qin was immersed in the constantly strengthening cultivation. Time passed day by day, and Fang Qin stayed at home for a whole week of cultivation. Fang Qinpan sat in the bedroom. His internal power had already gone from strands of internal power cultivation to like a river. During the movement of internal power, a faint blue color emanated from his body, and the entire house was affected to a few degrees lower. My internal strength has decreased, and my meridians have gradually opened up a lot. The rest can only be sharpened by water. After finishing the exercise, Fang Qin felt the increasingly abundant internal strength in his body and shook his palm with some joy. Next, you can try pushing open the door. System, enter, world. The previous landscape painting reappeared, causing a slight dizziness before my eyes. After regaining my senses, I had already reached the interior of the ancient tomb. Nowadays, my internal strength has improved slightly, and even in the dark, I can still see things, but it's not very clear. Take out a flashlight to illuminate, walk along the wall to the end, and a stone gate is blocking it. With luck and internal strength in mind, internal strength surged in hands. With a posture, he unleashed a fierce punch to hit the stone gate. It is the great demon subduing fist recorded in the Nine Yin Manual. Pang. The sound of fists hitting the stone gate was particularly heavy in the quiet underground chamber. His cough, I'm a bit overjoyed. Fang Qin withdrew his slightly tingled fist and looked at the slightly concave mark in the center of the stone gate, somewhat impressed. Although this stone gate is not very thick, it is actually hard. At first, with a swing of his fist, his hand was numb from the shock. I don't believe I can't open this door, he said, continuing his luck and punching, a set of big demonic punches constantly bombarding. Bang! 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 His hands trembled and numb, but Fang Qin didn't care. He felt a surge of pleasure in his heart, and his internal strength surged without reservation. A set of 70.2 great demonic punches was struck, and the stone gate finally couldn't bear it. It burst open in the middle and turned into a pile of stones. Fang Qin collected his internal strength, rubbed his numb arm, and looked at the gravel in front of him with a burst of joy. If it were him who had not learned martial arts before, not to mention breaking the stone gate, he might not be able to open it with a wooden one. Step forward and throw away these stones before slowly walking into them with a flashlight. Chapter 4. Ancient Tomb Dragon Maiden. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fang Qin walked slowly into it, and there was a small stone chamber that was just the size of a few people. When he looked around, he found a protrusion on the edge. He stepped forward to observe and reached out to brush away the dust. It was a small mechanism that twisted slightly. With a click. There was a sound coming from above, and I looked at it with a flashlight and found that there was a gap when I opened it. I could still see something covering it. Upon closer inspection, I found several lines of text, with densely packed small characters below. The Jade Maiden's Heart Sutra is full of true skill pressure. The Double Ninth Festival lasts a lifetime and is not weaker than others. After carefully reading it, Fang Qin sighed a bit. Wang Chongyang was really a steel-straight man. Even Lin Chaoying had already passed away, but he still couldn't let go of his desire to compete and win, hoping to surpass him. At that time, Wang Chongyang and Lin Chaoying were originally in mutual admiration and had a romantic relationship with each other. They were supposed to be a couple of gods and immortals. However, whenever they discussed martial arts, the two always couldn't let go of their pride and refused to give in to each other. Lin Chaoying was talented and intelligent. At that time, the two of them competed and even surpassed Wang Chongyang by 1 point. Wang Chongyang couldn't accept being inferior to a woman, so he always wanted to win or simply didn't see her again, forcing Lin Chaoying to win the ancient tomb through gambling. Unfortunately, Wang Chongyang kept avoiding, and Lin Chaoying soon died of depression. Wang Chongyang was shocked when he learned about this later, so he quietly entered the ancient tomb through a secret passage. When worshipping her, he discovered the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra, carved in the secret room, which had completely shattered his martial arts skills. I had a fighting heart in my heart again, and after going back and pondering for a few years, I finally found many ways to crack it, but each move is independent and disorganized, making it difficult to form a system. The superior martial arts that integrate with the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra are far from perfect, and in the end, they have no choice but to give up, feeling even more ashamed. Only after winning the Nine Yin Manual in Huashan's debate on swords later did I find a way to solve this unique skill. Later, he came to the ancient tomb again, carved part of the Nine Yin Manual in the tomb chamber, and wrote a few words on the sarcophagus lid for future generations. Lin Chaoying is really impressive, and Wang Chongyang can only rely on the legacy of his predecessors. It's a bit shameful to say so. When Fang Qin remembered the reason behind it, he couldn't help but sigh that Lin Chaoying was a bit unruly in dealing with people. As long as one of them softened slightly, the results could be vastly different. Without much thought at the moment, he used his internal strength and jumped up inside the stone coffin. He gently exerted force and the lid of the coffin was moved. Fang Qin exhaled his turbid breath and jumped out from inside. There was a slight candlelight shining around, not as dark as below, so he put away the flashlight and threw it into the space, and covered the sarcophagus. Just as I was about to take a closer look, I heard a faint sound outside the door. I wanted to dodge for a while, but unfortunately, everything was empty, and since the person had already arrived at the door, I naturally knew it was too late, so I didn't plan to hide. "Who are you? Why are you in my ancient tomb?" A cold and gentle voice sounded. When Fang Qin looked at the sound, he suddenly felt a trance. I saw that the person was about 2 or 8 years old. Apart from her smooth black hair, she was dressed in white clothes and plain snow. Her beautiful face had a cold expression, but with a slight loss of blood, she looked a bit pale. She was such a fairy princess, with her beautiful eyes slightly fixed on her. His little dragon girl. What a beautiful person! Fang Qin only felt that the other party was exceptionally beautiful, with excellent appearance, temperament, and physique. He had never seen anyone more beautiful than her before. After calming down, seeing his beautiful eyes staring at him, his eyes seemed to be filled with some exploration, and his heart couldn't help but feel a slight warmth. Damn it, I'm despicable. Miss, below Qin, I accidentally entered a secret room and walked along the road. Unexpectedly, I broke into an ancient tomb. I have offended you so much, please forgive me. Fang Qin calmed down and clasped his fists, explaining. Well, although Fang Qin knew about the ancient tomb here, it was unintentional to come directly to the secret chamber of the tomb, so he spoke sincerely. Xiaolongnu's face was expressionless as she gazed closely at the strange man who had broken into the ancient tomb. He has a handsome face, a tall and straight figure, and has a decent temperament. However, his strange attire and short hair make him look a bit strange. Looking at his apologetic expression, it didn't seem like she was pretending. Little dragon girl didn't speak for a moment. The atmosphere was a bit quiet, and when Fang Qin saw that she didn't speak and just looked at him carefully, he couldn't help but feel strange. It was just that he met those beautiful eyes and felt a slight warmth in his heart. The ancient tomb does not welcome outsiders, especially men are not allowed to enter. Her voice was cold and delicate, and she paused for a moment. I'll take you out, you come with me. After Xiaolongnu finished speaking, Fang Qin turned her head and walked out. Although Xiaolongnu doesn't know where this strange man entered the ancient tomb, she has a cold temper and no intention of exploring. In addition, senior sister Li Macho has been trying to break in frequently these days, which has made her feel a bit restless. Before, she heard some noise here and thought that her senior sister had barged in. She came here to investigate carefully, and ended up meeting Fang Qin. Fang Qin breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that she had not delved into the matter. If he wanted to explain, he didn't know how to say it. Little dragon girl saved a lot of trouble by not asking further questions. Immediately, he suppressed his thoughts and quickly followed suit. Following Xiaolongnu through a complex secret passage, Fang Qin secretly scrutinized the female protagonist in the novel from behind. Her graceful figure is impressive, but she and I have just met and are indeed leading the way without any precautions. It seems that she has been living in the ancient tomb without any vigilance. I don't know the girl's name. Although Fang Qin knew her name, Xiaolongnu had not informed her before and approached to inquire with the intention of chatting with her. Just go out and don't ask me my name, said little dragon girl, turning her head slightly. Fang Qin felt a bit embarrassed, but he didn't pay much attention. This little dragon girl grew up in an ancient tomb from a young age and never saw anyone outside. She naturally developed a dislike for talking, and her internal skill was the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra, which emphasizes less thinking, and suppresses emotions. In this way, it is natural for outsiders to maintain their composure. If it weren't for him being in the ancient tomb, this little dragon girl would probably have paid no attention to him. Chapter 5. Red Practice Fairy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fang Qin followed Xiaolongnu for a moment and felt that the secret passage of the ancient tomb was really terrifying. The surroundings were dark and gloomy, and people were walking in it. If they didn't know the location of the map, they might not be able to leave until they died. He followed along for not long before turning several intersections and circling around. At first, he was still interested in remembering the route, but soon he was knocked unconscious and didn't know where he was. Even if we ask him to return to his original position now, I'm afraid he won't be able to go back. After recording the route without success, he simply didn't think about it and focused on looking at the beauty. As the saying goes, a beautiful woman is delicious. The beauty of little dragon girl is actually the most beautiful and natural person he has ever seen. It is unknown that it is due to years of practicing internal skills, and her exposed skin is as crystal clear as white jade. With every movement and stillness, she has an admirable charm. Why do you keep smiling at me? Xiaolongnu stopped and turned to look at Fang Qin, puzzled. Cough cough, to be honest, the girl is actually the most beautiful person I have ever seen. I feel happy when I see her, so I can't help but. I hope the girl has a lot of understanding, and please let her know her name. Fang Qin didn't think there was anything to hide, so he answered truthfully and asked her name again. Well, I crave her body, confirm. Xiaolongnu's face remained unchanged, but there was also something strange in her heart. She had been in the ancient tomb since childhood and only had contact with her master, senior sister, and grandmother who had been taking care of her. How could she have seen people outside the tomb? The strange feeling in my heart disappeared in an instant, and there was no trace on my face. I nodded lightly without further ado and continued to lead the way ahead. Fang Qin looked dumbfounded. It was too cold. Just call me little dragon girl. Just thinking about how to tease her, a cold voice came from ahead. Little dragon girl. Well, what a good name, I'll call you dragon girl. Fang Qin was taken aback and immediately replied, using this as an opportunity to strike a snake and stick to talk to her. In this way, although most of it was said by Fang Qin, little dragon girl occasionally replied a few words. Xiaolongnu's cold and beautiful eyes looked at Fang Qin, feeling that this person was indeed somewhat strange. She spoke with occasional witty words and always asked strange questions. She just looked at his smiling eyes, and although she didn't like to speak, she slowly replied to him a few words. At this moment, the sound of breaking through the air sounded. Burn! Burn! The two of them changed their faces at the same time, each hiding to the side. Several silver needles flew through the middle and sank into the wall. Under the glow of the fire, they could still see the black light flickering on the needles, indicating that there was a strong poison left on them. Fang Qin's days of practicing martial arts were still short, and he narrowly avoided the silver needle. Looking at the poisonous needle sinking into the wall, his heart was filled with anger. If he hadn't dodged it, he might have directly cooled down. I am very familiar with these mechanisms of the ancient tomb. Do you think you can stop me by changing the order? Don't be so obsessed. Hand in the Heart Sutra of the Jade Maiden. I will spare you for the love between you and my sisters for many years. Although the sound had already arrived, a tall figure walked out ahead, wearing a yellow robe and a cold and charming Taoist nun holding floating dust in her hand. As soon as Li Macho came out, he noticed a man standing next to his junior sister, Xiaolongnu. He was taken aback and then a hint of mockery flashed on his face. Junior sister, you're really happy. I'll tell you why you've been unwilling to come out. It turns out there's a good lover hidden in the ancient tomb. Fang Qinzheng was secretly angry and heard Li Macho's words. He couldn't help but be taken aback and stopped his anger. His gaze towards Li Macho also improved a lot. If you can speak, speak a little more. If everything is settled, I'll invite you to have a wedding wine. Little dragon girl frowned slightly, ignoring the sarcasm in Li Macho's words, and said to Fang Qin, you step back first and find a place to hide. I am not a match for senior sister, and I won't care about you if I fight with her. If there is a chance in the future. Let's talk about it. Ah, Miss Long, let me help you. I still know some martial arts skills. Fang Qin was somewhat moved. The two of them, although strangers, only met by chance, and she never thought of leaving him alone. Xiaolongnu was somewhat surprised and shook her head as she looked at Fang Qin. No need, this is a feud between my senior sister and me. Without waiting for Fang Qin to answer, he flew lightly and attacked, his hands fluttering like butterflies. Li Macho looked at the two of them as if they were secretly angry with each other. When he saw Xiaolongnu attacking, he refused to give in and launched a counterattack with floating dust. The two of them were entangled in a fight, their figures dancing in the air. These two are rare and stunning women in the world. One is dressed in white like snow, while the other is graceful and cool. Their martial arts are all passed down from the ancient tomb's elegant and ethereal martial arts. When they fight each other, they feel like two fairy consorts dancing gracefully, making them mesmerizing. After all, Fang Qin's internal skills were slightly improved, and the essence of martial arts was to learn from the superior martial arts, the Nine Yin Manual, which was called the general outline of martial arts in the world. Naturally, he would not be confused. Every move under the nimble dance of the two men was full of terrible momentum, and then he moved his feet and jumped to one side, which could not help but secretly confirm what he had learned. As for the idea of escaping, there is no such thing. Not to mention that only Little Dragon Girl knows the route mechanism here, just a slight liking for Little Dragon Girl is enough for him to stop and raid the formation. Good junior sister, you have already read the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra. Why be so stubborn? Why not give it to me? After all, Li Macho is older and has studied martial arts for a long time. He has also ventured into the martial arts world and has a lot of experience in fighting with others. He has also created the title of Red Training Fairy in the martial arts world, so he has the upper hand in battles with Little Dragon Girl and appears to be adept. My master once said that it cannot be passed on to others. Senior sister is no longer from my ancient tomb, so I naturally obey my master's orders and will not impart it to you. There is no need to say that I will not give you the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra. Xiao Longnu's beautiful fist technique, Shizi Huanxin, temporarily repelled Li Macho, saying. Li Macho originally intended to persuade Xia Longnu with emotion and reason, but unfortunately, he was unable to achieve his goal. Now she has been rejected by Xia Longnu as a teacher, and recalling the past is even more burning in the fire. Humph, master, how biased. She has been taking great care of you since she was young. Although I came first, I am the senior sister of the ancient tomb. Now even the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra is only passed on to you. I am not willing to accept it. Why? After Li Macho finished speaking, she wiped her hands and waved them forward. A silver needle flickered, and under the cover of a killing intent, Little Dragon Girl dodged with her sparrow-catching skill. Seeing that the Ice Soul Silver Needle had no battle results, she didn't care and used her internal power to unleash her proud martial arts skills. 3 knots, 3 knots. Attack on the entire body of Little Dragon Girl, with her palms floating as if covering her entire body. Little Dragon Girl couldn't avoid it and had to swing the snow-white silk ribbon wrapped around her arms down her crotch. 2 slender ribbons were wielded by her like arms, and in an instant, she launched a counter-attack with a few moves that were erratic but also hidden mysteries. Li Macho was both surprised and angry when he saw this, saying, "What kind of martial arts is this? How come I have never seen it before? Is it because my master passed it on privately again?" Feeling jealous in his heart, he made a fierce move and slapped several times to stop the 2 ribbons. In an instant, he quickly wiped his hands and his internal strength surged. A layer of blood appeared on his palms, and he took advantage of Little Dragon Girl's old strength passing over her new strength before slapping her chest. Seeing that he was about to succeed, Li Macho's face lit up with joy. However, seeing the delicate body of Xia Longnu, he couldn't bear it anymore and instinctively regained a lot of his internal strength. Puff! Little Dragon Girl dodged and took a palm, feeling a sharp pain and spitting out a mouthful of blood in reverse. My whole body strength suddenly dissipated by 7 points, and I fell softly behind me. Li Macho's eyes were a bit complicated when he saw this, but he didn't need to think too much. He was about to deceive himself and try to catch her before saying anything else. Who? A figure leapt and grabbed Little Dragon Girl with one hand, swung it out with the other, and the air-breaking fist wind sounded. It was immediately startled, and I didn't hesitate to wave a red practice divine palm to be afraid of going away. Pang! Li Macho only felt that the opponent's fist was fierce and unstoppable. A huge force came from him, and he took a few steps back to release his strength. His arms became sore and weak, and he was secretly shocked. It was Fang Qin who wanted to come forward to rescue Xia Longnu when she was in crisis. However, the ancient tomb sect's martial arts are inherently inclined towards a path of elegance and lightness, and its lightness skills are among the top in the world. Although Fang Qin has learned top-notch internal skills, she does not have a light industry skill to rely on. In addition, her internal strength is not as deep as hers, so her speed is naturally much slower compared to Li Macho. Fortunately, at the final crisis, he arrived at the same level as the Great Demon Suppression Fist. Heavenly Gang Demon Suppression. And repelled Li Macho. Fang Qin looked at the little dragon girl who was lying in his arms. At this moment, there was no trace of blood on her already snow-white face, and there was a bright red blood at the corner of her mouth, which made me feel even more pitiful. Fang Qin dared not delay, and her internal strength surged in her hands, protecting her heart and suppressing internal injuries. Chapter 6. Injury. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Fang Qin's cultivation of internal power is not deep yet, but he knows the essence of martial arts in the Nine Yin Manual very well. Therefore, the control of internal power can be said to be quite ingenious. If someone else is injured, they need to meditate quietly and be undisturbed before undergoing treatment. If there is any alarm or internal force split, it is very likely to harm people and oneself, deepen internal injuries, and even cause more serious consequences. But Fang Qin is different. Every strand of his internal power is perfectly controlled by him. Even if he is doing other things, his internal power surges and he can heal injuries. This control can be said to be exquisite. With the transfer of internal power, Fang Qin frowned. The internal injury was only healed, but the attached toxicity was difficult to treat for a while, so it could only be temporarily protected. Xiaolongnu's wound was dull and painful, and she felt a surge of internal energy on her face before her complexion improved slightly. However, the pain was suppressed slightly, and there was also a tingling sensation. Unable to support her, Fang Qin fainted and slowly placed her on the ground. Fang Qin raised his head, his expression somewhat stern, and he looked at Li Macho, whose face was somewhat fearful and angry. Without waiting for him to say anything, Li Macho attacked again with floating dust, and Fang Qin had no choice but to use his skills to confront him. Pang! 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 The two of them quickly matched a dozen moves. Upon seeing the increasingly weak little dragon girl, Fang Qin Yuguang frowned inwardly and forced Li Macho to retreat with a move. Aren't you sisters? You grew up together, so why do you have to lay such heavy hands? Besides, if she dies, you won't get the Heart Sutra of the Jade Maiden. Xiaolongnu's injury is not too dangerous at the moment, it's just more serious due to poisoning and internal injuries. He temporarily protected her with his internal strength, but he couldn't afford to delay. He just wanted to say goodbye to the woman and heal her. Humph, I can't believe my junior sister's good lover is actually very skilled in martial arts. Li Macho secretly compared to himself that this person's previous punch was indeed powerful, but there was a suspicion of a surprise attack. However, he used several more moves later and remained deadlocked. I only felt that this person's martial arts were not inferior to hers, and her fist was even more powerful and astonishing. If she continued to fight, she might not be able to win back. Besides, what he said was also reasonable. If Little Dragon Lady died, she was afraid that she would never receive the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra again. Looking at Xiaolongnu, I saw her pale face and a dim and unconscious expression. Remembering the days when we lived and practiced martial arts together in the ancient tomb when we were young, my heart couldn't help but feel a little sour. I sighed inwardly that this man was protecting her, and I couldn't please him either. If I couldn't obtain the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra, why not retreat first? There will always be a chance to force her to comply in the future. So I thought of taking out a small jade bottle from my sleeve and throwing it at Fang Qin. She was poisoned by my red practice divine palm. Take this antidote for her and use it to heal her injuries. It will take her 3 days to relieve. Fang Qin attached internal force to his palm and took the jade vase. Just staring tightly at Li Macho. Seeing this, Li Macho naturally knew that if she didn't leave again, the man couldn't help but fight again without stopping. He jumped back a few steps and turned around to leave. Humph, let's let you go for now. Fang Qin breathed a sigh of relief. Although he had fought on par with Li Macho before, and even had a slight advantage, his family knew about their own affairs. He only achieved such power through his exquisite control of internal power. After all, he couldn't compare to Li Macho's deep internal power. With just a dozen moves, his internal power had already been depleted by 30%. If Li Macho persists, she is afraid that she will exhaust her internal strength in no time. Fortunately, she still remembers the friendship between her master and overestimates Fang Qin, so she is not entangled anymore. It is unknown whether this jade bottle antidote is true or not. Opening the bottle cap reveals several small pills inside. Forget it, let's show little dragon girl the truth later. Fang Qin threw the jade bottle into the space and quickly came to little dragon girl's side to help her up. Warm and soft in my arms, a faint fragrance spreads. I don't have the heart to think about anything else now. The urgency of the delay is to first suppress Xiaolongnu's internal injuries and then let her guide her to find a safe place, otherwise Li Macho who is staying here may come back at any time. I ran back for 2 blocks to reach a room door that I had passed through before, and opened it to enter. Gently help little dragon girl sit on the ground, her internal strength surging to help her heal. There is a healing chapter in the Nine Yin Manual, which is also good for healing internal power. Fang Qin pressed his hands against the back of Xiaolongnu, and his internal strength flowed over to treat her injuries. However, in a moment, he felt that the poison of the red practice was also difficult to deal with. Although it could be slowly eliminated, it would take time, so he could only heal the internal injury by following the flow of qi first. White air gradually rises. Poop. Little dragon girl spat out a mouthful of blood and woke up slowly, her thoughts somewhat confused. Using internal skills to heal wounds. A sentence came to her ear, and little dragon girl immediately understood. With her eyes closed, she used her internal skills to heal her wounds. The two of them were able to use their skills more quickly at the same time, and in a moment, they suppressed the internal damage and toxicity of Xiaolongnu. The two slowly finished their work, and Xiaolongnu stood up weakly to look at Fang Qin. "Thank you very much for healing me," Xiaolongnu said softly, wondering if it was because of the injury. Her voice was a bit more gentle than before, with a hint of coldness. Just as she finished speaking, Fang Qin shook her body and took advantage of the situation to come forward and support her. "Be careful, your injury is not healing yet and you won't be able to exert force. Let me support you. Miss Long, you must know that I am just temporarily suppressing your injury. If you want to recover, it will take some more time. This place is not far from the place where we just fought. Let's find a safe place to seriously treat your injury first." Fang Qin just stopped. Xiaolongnu felt a hot breath coming over her, and Fang Qin reached out to help her. She wanted to break free but was powerless, so she had to let him do it. "You. This matter has nothing to do with you, I can send you out first. Miss Long, there's no need to say more. Just show me the way. I'll take you there. I won't leave until Miss Long's injury heals." Fang Qin interrupted Miss Long with a stern expression. Chapter 7. Healing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. I have senior sister's red practice poison on me, and without an antidote, I cannot cure it. You don't need to worry about me, I'm afraid I won't be able to survive, said little dragon girl gently. Fang Qin saw her indifferent expression and seemed indifferent when talking about his life and death. He couldn't help but frown inwardly. This ancient tomb's internal skill was truly a bit of a loss of emotions and desires. Thinking that she had never been to the outside world in this ancient tomb all her life, he couldn't help but feel a little pity. Pretending to reach into the bag with his right hand, he took out the antidote given by Li Macho from the space and handed it to her. "Miss Long, don't worry. Your senior sister obviously doesn't want you to die here. This is the antidote she left behind, but I don't understand this, and I don't know if it's true. Take a look." Xiaolongnu took the jade bottle, opened the bottle cap, looked around, and then poured out one. Upon smelling it, a medicinal fragrance came out, and the numbness on her body slightly improved. Senior sister. Fang Qin was a bit stunned and lost in thought, thinking that the antidote was strange and comforting. Even without an antidote, I am confident that I can cure your injury. Miss Long, please rest assured. Well, although I'm not sure, this antidote should be effective for my injury. Xiaolongnu put away the antidote jade bottle and replied. Fang Qin breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this, nodded, and helped little Longnu out of the stone gate. When did Xiaolongnu come into contact with a man? Now that they have been in such contact, they only feel a slight warmth on their faces and some panic as they use their internal strength to restrain themselves, before suppressing that hint of shyness and confirming the direction for Fang Qin. Afterwards, the two of them walked for a long time under the guidance of Xiaolongnu, and arrived at the stone wall. Following Xiaolongnu's instructions, Fang Qin opened the mechanism stone door and walked to a relatively spacious room path, where there was a living room. Walking outside one of the rooms, I pushed open the stone door and entered a simple room. It was placed very simply, with only a long piece of bluestone as the bed, a grass mat spread on the bed, a white cloth as a thin quilt, and nothing else. Helping Xiaolongnu sit on a stone bed, Fang Qin followed suit. However, as she sat down, a piercing chill came from under the bed, causing her to be startled. Hiss, what's going on? Looking at Xiaolongnu again, she saw her lips curved and her cold eyes curved slightly, looking at him with a smile on their face. It was incredibly beautiful. I couldn't help but feel a bit dizzy, and then I realized that this might be the cold jade bed in the ancient tomb. However, seeing Xiaolongnu feeling a bit of schadenfreude, I couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect her to have such a bad taste, so I said, Miss Long looks really good when she smiles, she should be smiling more. Xiaolongnu has lived here since childhood and is extremely familiar with it. It was only when she saw him standing up in panic that she remembered the cold jade bed. However, seeing him feeling a bit embarrassed, she couldn't help but find it amusing and couldn't help but smile. Just hearing Fang Qin's words, I couldn't help but be startled. I was a bit hesitant to look at his smiling face, and turned my head. My heart was pounding with excitement again, and I wanted to suppress it. It's just that this unlucky achievement is not bad, but something went wrong with the first one. Originally, sitting on this cold jade bed, some of her skills were able to resist the cold on her own, while others were able to suppress internal injuries without any harm. However, when she was trying to restrain her emotions, something went wrong. There was a violent internal conflict, and under the traction of internal injuries, I couldn't help but feel a tightness in my chest. My qi and blood went against each other, and I stretched out my sleeve to cover my mouth. Little dragon girl's face turned pale, and her snow-white sleeves were stained with a layer of blood. Fang Qin saw that she was originally in good condition but suddenly had a problem, so he quickly supported her forward and used his right hand to exercise his internal strength. I couldn't help but be surprised that the previously restrained toxic internal injury had erupted again, and there was a cold air invading her body. I thought I couldn't let her sit on this cold jade bed anymore. Lay the white thin cloth on the ground, gently lift her body onto the laid white cloth, hold her with your left hand, and use your right hand to deliver internal energy to help her regulate her internal energy. Fang Qin felt that he couldn't just start treating his injuries after procrastinating. When he took the jade bottle in his hand and wanted to feed the pill to Xiaolongnu, he thought to himself that although this antidote might be useful, Li Macho was unlikely to be tampering with it. But if you're not afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of the unexpected. If there's a problem with this antidote, isn't it just adding damage to the damage? Immediately, he put down the jade bottle and seriously healed it. After a moment, his eyebrows furrowed, and he didn't know if it was due to the cold or something else, but his entry was slow. Looking at the painful expression on Xiaolongnu's face and her arms, she couldn't help feeling anxious and thought for a moment before whispering in Xiaolongnu's ear. Miss Long, I have an internal skill healing technique for sadness. I will tell you to listen to it. You can regulate your movements according to the mental method, and I will assist you with my internal strength. Xiaolongnu opened her tightly closed eyes slightly and nodded lightly. Fang Qin then told her the healing chapter in the Nine Yin Manual in detail. Fortunately, it was not very long. In addition, Xiaolong was talented and intelligent, so he said it twice before writing it down. At the beginning, Xiaolongnu was still a bit young, but Fang Qin used his internal strength to guide her. With the combination of the two, the healing speed greatly increased. Half an hour later, Fang Qin's face became tired and he stopped working. Xiaolongnu vomited poisonous blood and her face improved a lot. She opened her eyes and stared at Fang Qin. Fang Qin smiled at her and said, "Besides being quite toxic, I will use my energy to heal your injuries once a day. In 2 or 3 days, you should be able to eliminate them." Xiaolongnu's internal strength was exhausted, and a slight blush flashed on her face. She nodded slightly, feeling something strange in her heart. In the past, she had abundant martial arts skills, and she was selfless and had no desires all day. Now that her martial arts were exhausted, it seemed that she couldn't suppress her thoughts. Being cared for by him so intimately, she felt an unprecedented shyness. "I'm much better now, thank you very much." Xiaolongnu lightly judoed, her gaze no longer cold as if at first, and her cold and gentle eyes softened. Chapter 8. Cold Jade Bed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Fang Qin watched her complexion improve, he couldn't help but ask, recalling the situation just now, "Miss Long, what happened to you just now? Why did your injury suddenly worsen?" Xiaolongnu blushed and said, "I was originally planning to use the cold jade bed to suppress my internal injuries, but to my surprise, there were some mistakes in my internal skills, which is why." Speaking of which, he looked down at Qin again, slightly warming up and avoiding his gaze. Fang Qin saw that her face was red and dizzy, but it was not as clear and cold as before, like an ice cube. Although it was pure and pure, it could not be more charming than her now shy and delicate face. Xiaolongnu felt a little flustered in his scorching gaze and said, "The mind technique you just imparted to me is very mysterious, and I don't know how to thank you. This cold jade bed is very beneficial for practicing martial arts. If not, I will give it to you for cultivation. I am teaching you a few sets of martial arts." Fang Qin saw that she was a bit embarrassed and looked at the blue stone path, cold jade bed. Indeed, it is extremely cold and truly deserving of its name. However, just now I saw the girl sitting on it with no unusual colors and didn't remind me, was it intentional to make fun of me? No, I haven't. Since I started practicing martial arts, I have had to sleep on this cold jade bed every day. Over the years, I have adapted to it and didn't think of it for a moment before forgetting to remind you. Oh. So why did you suddenly? Just now. Xiaolongnu saw him asking about his embarrassment just now, and remembered her recent mood. She felt a hint of shyness, but couldn't help but feel a little annoyed at him. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Fang Qin and she didn't speak. Fang Qin couldn't help but find it amusing to see her eyes flickering and her charming gaze staring at him. Xiaolongnu was no longer cold and aloof towards him, and their relationship was no longer as distant as before, with a hint of intimacy. "What is the effect of that cold jade bed? It's so cold, and you still have to sleep on it. Don't you feel cold lying in it?" Fang Qin naturally had some understanding of this cold jade bed, but it's also wonderful to talk to the beauty through it. It is said that this cold jade bed was passed down by the grandmother of the ancestor of the ancient tomb. It was taken out under hundreds of zhang of cold ice in the extremely cold land of the north, and the cold energy condensed into it. If a person lay on it, they would be stimulated by the cold and had to use their martial arts to resist. In this way, over time, people will develop the ability to exercise martial arts on their own, constantly practicing, which can be very beneficial for the cultivation of internal skills. Combined with this cold jade, it has a suppressive effect on heart fire from yin to cold, so there is no need to worry about getting demonic when practicing martial arts. It has many wonderful uses, Xiaolong said. Fang Qin couldn't help but look at little dragon girl with a strange expression when she said that there would be no more time for her to become possessed by the devil. Xiaolong Meimu noticed that his expression was different, and she knew that he wanted to mention the incident just now, which made her feel very embarrassed and annoyed. I just didn't expect this red practice poison and internal injury to be so. Plus. Humph. Fang Qin laughed heartily and finally stopped teasing her. He stood up and approached the cold jade bed, extending his right hand to explore. He didn't feel anything unusual even from a close distance. With a slight touch from his subordinates, a chill suddenly emanated from the blue stone. He took his hand away and used his skills to dispel the chill, leaving him speechless. This cold jade bed was truly mysterious. As long as it didn't touch the surface, there was no sensation, and the chill seemed to be locked in it. It's truly magical. Miss Long, don't you need this cold jade bed? Well, I've already adapted. This cold jade bed doesn't have much use for me, said little dragon girl. Okay, I'm being disrespectful. Thank you very much, Miss Long. Fang Qin didn't refuse and agreed directly. After all, it would be of great benefit to him. Xiaolongnu gently shook her head and said, no need for that. If it weren't for you healing my wounds, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to live. Thank you very much. Fang Qin saw that her face was tired, and today she had a lot of ups and downs. Thinking of the time being late, she took a shortcut. Miss Long, it's not early now. You should rest early and keep up your spirits. Xiaolongnu nodded in agreement, and Fang Qin took Xiaolongnu to a nearby house to rest. Seeing that there seemed to be no one around, he couldn't help but ask, thinking that there might be a grandmother. Law in the original work who hadn't seen her before, Miss Long, are you the only one living in the ancient tomb? Xiaolongnu was somewhat surprised by his question. Thinking of her master and grandma's son, she couldn't help but feel sad. She said, before, I used to live in the ancient tomb with my master, senior sister, and grandma Sunday. Later, my senior sister was kicked out by her master because she didn't want to follow the rules of the ancient tomb. 1 year, she returned to the ancient tomb to avoid her enemy, and her master took her in. She struggled with the enemy but was seriously injured and passed away soon after. Only my grandmother and I were in the ancient tomb, and later my grandmother also. I'm the only one left. Upon hearing this, Fang Qin couldn't help but be secretly surprised. Although he couldn't say he knew all about the original work, it was not uncommon. It was likely that grandma's son had been mistakenly killed by Hao Datong about Yang Guo's affairs in the future. How could it be that this place had already? However, considering the images in the system's world, one can vaguely understand that this may not be a separate world of divine sculptures, but rather a mixed world of martial arts, and some events naturally cannot match one by one. And this is a real world, anything can happen. The plot can be used as a reference, but it cannot be completely convinced of the plot. Seeing Xiaolongnu's melancholic expression and a softening of her heart, she couldn't help but reach out to grab her jade hand and say, Miss Long, I'm sorry to remind you of something sad. I'm going to rest. You can try practicing on the cold jade bed over there, interrupted little dragon girl. She withdrew her jade hand and fled back to the room, closing the door. Fang Qin was a bit stunned, feeling a hint of warmth in his hand and murmuring to himself, did you scare her a bit? Forget it, take your time. After exhaling, Fang Qin shouted to the inside of the door, Miss Long, please rest early. I was just in the room. Remember to call me if you have anything to do. Only when a sound came from inside the door did he turn around and leave satisfied. Indoor. Xiaolongnu stood at the door, feeling her heart beating faster than ever before, with a faint feeling of stuffiness and heat. Her jade hand gently caressed her cheek, feeling a bit hot and restless. What's wrong with me? Chapter 9. Internal Power Variations. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Fang Qin arrived at his previous room, pushed the door open, and walked in front of the cold jade bed. Taking a deep breath, lying down on the cold jade bed, I immediately felt the cold air seeping through from below. At first, it was tolerable, but as time passed, I gradually felt the piercing cold and couldn't help but subconsciously use my skills to resist the cold. Fang Qin closed his eyes and activated the 9 Yin internal forces, which constantly roamed within his body, resisting the cold while practicing. After a long time, his mind slowly became drowsy and he wanted to fall asleep. His internal skills unconsciously came to a stop, and the cold below immediately took the opportunity to invade, freezing Fang Qin awake and continuing to use his internal strength to resist. As a result, Fang Qin kept circulating between them, waking up and sleeping, lying down in a daze. Time passed, and after an unknown amount of time, Fang Qin opened his eyes, with a glimmer of vitality in them. He sat up feeling refreshed and not tired at all. Fang Qin checked his cultivation situation and found that after a night, his internal strength had improved significantly, which made him uncontrollably happy. Suddenly, Fang Qin's face changed and he raised his hand to transport the faint cold energy from his internal strength. It seems that the internal strength has become even colder. Is it because it has absorbed the cold energy of the cold jade? Fang Qin murmured to himself. The internal skill martial arts recorded in the Nine Yin Manual is the essence Huang Shang has learned from thousands of Taoist treasures. It can be said that it is authentic Taoism, and the internal power is just and peaceful. But if you only look at the upper and lower volumes, you will find that the martial arts in them tend to be more gentle and ruthless. If you cannot have a better understanding of the essence of Taoism, what you have learned is easily biased towards extremes. As stated in the outline of the Nine Yin Canon, the enlightened sect's righteousness explicitly states that the extreme prosperity of the Nine Yin is a disaster. In the original work, Heifeng Xianxia learned and practiced the martial arts in the second volume of the Nine Yin Manual without knowing Xianmen Taoism. As a result, they developed vicious, 9 Yin white bone claw, and heart-destroying palm, which are far from the original essence. However, Guojing has learned the authentic Taoist martial arts, Chuanzhen mind skill, since he was a child, so it is natural and impartial to learn the Nine Yin Manual. Unfortunately, the records in the Chongyang relics are incomplete and the most important outline is missing. The internal power that Fang Qin learned is the Nine Yin Manual, which lost its general outline. Fortunately, he understood all the essence of it in a moment by relying on the system. Of course, he can't misunderstand what he learned, but although the internal power he learned is moderate and peaceful, its attribute inevitably tends to be feminine and soft. Now, after practicing on this cold jade bed for a night, my internal strength seems to have carried a hint of cold jade air, which is slightly colder than before. If Fang Qin had realized something, he immediately sat up and practiced the 9 Yin internal power. The internal power flowed continuously through his body. In Fang Qin's perception, the chill that surged under the bed was resisted by the internal power, partially counteracted each other, and partially incorporated into it. As the internal power flowed into his body, it slowly refined, and the internal power seemed to slowly mutate in this change. Fang Qin was secretly surprised, paused for a moment, pondered, and used his internal power to attach his palm and slap it forward. Hoo! Under the palm wind, a faint chill dissipated. Fang Qin looked at his palm and was lost in thought, thinking that the benefits of this cold jade bed to him were probably not just what little dragon girl said, but really as if he had divine assistance. Suddenly, a sound came from outside this door, so I put it down for the time being. Stepping out of bed and reaching the stone door, I saw Xiaolong Nusu holding a bottle and jar. I saw him lightly nod, and his face had already regained its composure. "You woke up, I made some breakfast, you come with me." After saying that, he turned around and went to an outdoor room, pushed the door open, and Fang Qin followed suit. This is a larger room with some tables and chairs, which should be a special dining area in the ancient tomb. He sat at the table where some food had been prepared, watching little dragon girl take off the bottle and jar in her hand, pick up a small bowl, and a sweet taste spread, refreshing the heart. "What is this? It smells so good," Fang Qin laughed. Xiaolongnu poured the bowl and delivered it to Fang Qin. "This is Jade jelly." Fang Qin saw that she had regained the coldness she had when we first met, and did not look at the Jade jelly. He just stared at her and smiled. Xiaolongnu originally wanted to ignore it, but soon she was defeated and her face lit up. "What have you been staring at me for? You're really good looking, can't help it." Little dragon girl turned her head away from him. Upon seeing this, Fang Qin grinned and took a sip of the bowl of Jade jelly. He felt that the taste was extremely sweet, but he didn't feel bored. He couldn't help but take a few sips. Seeing Xiaolongnu sitting still, she asked, "Miss Long, won't you eat it?" "I have already eaten it, you can eat it," said little dragon girl. Looking at the simple and light dishes, I picked up my chopsticks and took a bite. I couldn't help but realize that although it wasn't a delicacy, it still had a unique flavor. Fang Qin praised Xiaolongnu repeatedly, without stopping, eating 3 times and 5 times apart. Xiaolongnu listened to the occasional praises from Fang Qin and turned her head to see him devouring his food. The corners of her eyes couldn't help but bend, and a faint smile flashed through her. For the next 3 consecutive days, Fang Qin healed and warmed up Xiaolongnu's body every day. Xiaolongnu prepared meals together every day and practiced martial arts separately in the remaining time. As they got along, they became more familiar and close. With the assistance of the cold jade bed, Fang Qin's internal skills, which were already fully understood and transparent, can now spontaneously operate. He is constantly practicing and improving his cultivation every minute and second. The original cultivation speed was already like a demon, which made it even more terrifying. It's not an exaggeration to say that one can travel thousands of miles in a day. Chapter 10. Ancient Tomb Martial Arts. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Indoor, Fang Qin woke up from the cold jade bed, feeling refreshed and full of energy. "I have adapted now, even if I don't stay on this cold jade bed, I can exercise my skills independently, constantly refining my internal strength. The cold jade bed has less effect on me, but activate the 9 Yin internal power, and feel the increasingly cold aura inside." I thought to myself that even the slightest bit of cold jade cold energy passively cultivated during self-cultivation has such an effect. It would be faster for me to actively release and refine it. Just do what you say when you think of it, sit still, start practicing, slowly weaken your resistance, and let your internal power absorb the cold jade and cold energy to refine in your body. The coldness of Lengli is driven and absorbed by the 9 Yin internal forces, running around the heavens. Every time it rotates, the cold energy is absorbed, and the breath in the internal forces becomes even more Yin cold. As time passed, Fang Qin felt the chill getting heavier and his body getting colder. Knowing that he had reached his limit, he slowly refined the cold energy and used his internal power to circulate for a week before taking away the unabsorbed cold energy from his body. Fang Qin let out a breath, and the excess cold energy dissipated from it. He then closed his eyes and felt it. The 9 Yin internal power in his body did indeed become faster. It seems to be effective, but we need to pay attention to the scale and not absorb too much cold energy at once, otherwise it cannot be refined and stays in the body for too long, which can actually harm ourselves. Feeling happy, I decided to set aside time every day except for necessary tasks to practice and absorb the cold. Will it all freeze into ice with just one palm in the future? Fang Qin fantasized happily in his heart. Stop overthinking, continue practicing and refining, and gradually enhance and transform your internal strength. At meal time, Fang Qin finished work and pushed the door open to meet Xiaolongnu. After having dinner with Xiaolongnu, he chatted with her. Now the toxicity on Xiaolongnu's body has been eliminated, and the internal injuries are no longer serious. The relationship between the two has become closer and closer in each contact. In addition, someone who has always been shameless and often shows love often makes Xiaolongnu blush. After a while, Fang Qin was about to continue practicing martial arts when she was persuaded by Xiaolongnu to stay. Fang Qin, I mentioned passing on a few sets of martial arts skills to you before. Today, I'll teach you. You come with me, said Xiaolongnu, and she took Fang Qin to a specialized training room for me. Xiaolongnu turned around and said, I'll first practice the martial arts I've learned. Tell me which one you like, and I'll teach it to you. Take a look. After speaking, she walked to the center of the room and began practicing martial arts. Her figure undulated, graceful as a startled swan and graceful as a wandering dragon. Heavenly and earthly nets, Jade Girl sword technique, beauty fist technique, Xiaolongnu demonstrated various martial arts one by one and introduced them to Fang Qin. Seeing her dancing gracefully, Fang Qin was not surprised and immediately looked at her seriously. He did indeed have some less martial arts in his hands. Although his internal skills were powerful, he had no other martial arts besides the great demon subduing fist. And he also lacks lightness skills. Although he relies on his internal strength and speed, having a lightness skill would naturally be even better. Take a closer look at the little dragon girl drill and choose a few sets of kung fu to learn. After a long time of practice, little dragon girl stood still and looked at Fang Qin Dao with beautiful eyes. These are all the secrets of my ancient tomb that are not passed down, but the mind technique you taught me before was truly mysterious and saved my life. Have you decided what to learn? I'll teach you. Miss Long, I want to learn that lightness skill, along with swordsmanship and some basic hidden weapons. Can you teach me these? Xiaolongnu nodded and said, your choice is the best. My ancient tomb sex lightness skills are the most powerful. Please listen carefully and I will tell you the cultivation method. Next, he passed on the skill of catching sparrows, the technique of the Jade Maiden sword, and the Jade Bee needle to Fang Qin, who listened carefully. Ding, is Xiaolongnu's teachings on sparrow hunting skill, Jade Bee needle, and Jade Girl sword technique included in the martial arts section? Yes, confirm inclusion. The system prompt sound that had not been heard for a long time came from my ear, and I couldn't help but feel happy and secretly confirm. Ding, successfully included and obtained chi points. Fang Qin closed his eyes slightly to examine. Whether to learn the sparrow hunting skill requires chi luck. Do you want to learn? Fang Qin made a definite decision, and a stream of information suddenly came to his mind. The methods of walking and lifting chi came to mind one by one, and he fully understood and connected them. Fang Qin once again entered a seemingly awake state, his body unconsciously moving with the information he had grasped, using the bird hunting technique. His body flickered and moved, beginning to be somewhat immature, but gradually becoming fully integrated. Xiaolongnu thought he didn't hear the main idea clearly when she saw him not speaking, and she wanted to comfort him and teach him again. Just as I was about to say it, I saw him using the sparrow hunting technique and couldn't help but be greatly surprised. I secretly shocked his intelligence and only looked at it once. At first, his body movements seemed unfamiliar, but every step made tremendous progress, moving horizontally and in the air, his figure becoming more and more familiar as he danced, and in the end, he was even more powerful than little dragon girl herself, which made him feel somewhat indifferent and speechless. Who? Fang Qin paused in the rehearsal and was fully aware of his sparrow hunting technique. Yu Guang looked at Xiaolongnu's somewhat shocked gaze and couldn't help but smile. He secretly said that the feeling of hanging up was really satisfying. Immediately, I also learned and comprehended the remaining two martial arts, and practiced them all once. System, view the properties panel. Host Fang Qin, martial arts, the Nine Yin Manual. Remnant, peacock catching skill, Jade Lady sword technique, Jade Bee needle, air transport point, 50,000 a function inferenced space world martial arts. Looking at the addition of several martial arts skills on the system panel, Fang Qin was somewhat happy. Seeing the gains and losses of chi points, I can't help thinking. It seems that you can really get chi points if you get martial arts, but the number of these chi points is much less than when you collected the Nine Yin Manual earlier. On the one hand, the Nine Yin Manual is more profound, powerful and comprehensive. On the other hand, the Nine Yin Manual runs through the trilogy of sculpture, so the points of chi you can obtain are naturally horrible. And what he got was still incomplete. The complete Nine Yin is estimated to have over 100,000 points of chi. It is not so easy to obtain the horrible chi points like the Nine Yin Manual. Maybe some martial arts comparable to the Nine Yin Manual, such as the Nine Yang Scripture or the Congenital Skill, cannot do it. To learn martial arts, it usually requires spending more chi points than obtaining them. Fortunately, this is the initial consumption. As Qin's martial arts realm deepens and his knowledge of martial arts becomes more comprehensive, he will need fewer and fewer energy points to learn, even to a certain extent, without the need for a system, and can learn directly on his own. Fang Qin's thoughts were swirling, and he regained his composure as he turned around to look at Xiao Longnu staring blankly at him, her embroidered mouth slightly open, unable to conceal his surprise.